What's good, YouTube, and welcome to the house. So about 34 of my 39 packages have come in, and I told you guys I was spending $2,500 on Yu-Gi-Oh cards. That doesn't mean I'm getting back into vending or buying and selling. These will not be sold for 5 years minimum, and I'm not going to really state when I'm going to be selling them, but I don't want to give a personal interest into Market Watch and trying to push certain cards. So here I'm going to be showing everything I bought and why, so it's on a public record. And also, I don't plan to be selling these anytime soon. You could be on a video 3 years later looking back and being like, John, will you sell me this? Nope. Gonna wait even longer. And there are risks that come with these, even though a lot of these I think are surefire to go up over time, and some of these are kind of just guesses in the wind. There's definitely a theme. Every single card's an ultimate rare. So when it comes down to it, there are only 3 reasons you should ever invest the way I'm investing right now. 1, you're lazy. You don't want to put in the work to constantly trade, and what you should actually be doing with your cards is having stuff like this in trade binders and working it over and over and over, because if you trade once for 1.25 value, trade again for 2 times value, you get a stack of cards people find they're worthless, and trade again and again and again. Within the 5 years I plan to hold this, you should more than 5x your money by far. Within a year, you should probably 10 times your money in trading cards if you are active. So this is kind of a bad way of investing, but the second way you would do this is if you don't have the time. This is more in the situation I'm in. I'm constantly streaming, I'm doing YouTube, and I don't want to spend time sitting doing office work, packing up letters, sending them out, doing tracking, doing mailing, doing confirmation, customer service. I don't necessarily have the time for that right now, yet I love Yu-Gi-Oh! And I don't want to become so removed and detached from buying cards and seeing how the system works, so I want to go ahead and get in here. And the third excuse you would have is that your bankroll is so large that you can't flip it over and over again, that you can't keep putting it back in all at once, and now you want your money working for you instead of just sitting there, and you want it in an industry you want, and trading cards isn't the worst place for that. Also, these field centers, if you're wondering, they were kind of a surprise. I didn't expect them. I was like, yeah, these aren't cards that I ordered, so these are where those came from. He did hit me up and say they were on the way, and I was like, give me anime and memes, and ended up with really nice anime and memes. That being said, here's a couple of the more expensive cards. Well, actually, Mobius is the second most expensive card I bought when buying. I didn't do a single buyout, but this was the only one that I could find on the entire market from Core TCG at $30. I think I would continue to buy these at $30 if I saw them till I have 2 play sets, and this may be a permakeep for me, but I see this easily being $90 to $120 someday, but not everybody appreciates Monarch format. Also, a couple packages, I'm not going to shame anybody here, but it was marked Ultimate Rare, and you sent me a couple of cards that weren't Ultimate Rare, so I am going to have to get back to those guys on TCG Player, and I understand mistakes happen. Maybe your employees aren't the most familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh! You're on TCG Player for Magic and Pokemon, and you try to deal in these games. I understand things happen, and people's systems are set up. So let's zoom in and show you some nice Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. And we start with actually something that helped me win a championship, and that's going to be Anishi. Maybe zoom out just a little as we're getting into this. So Anishi is a really good friend of mine. I think I spent around $10 on him. I spent around $250 on these guys. They don't have a good effect, but Grepher is here on the card, and I think it would just look nice in binders next to stuff like Karma Cut. And whenever you have lore and stuff like Instagram actually popping off, this may sound way far-fetched right now, but Instagram Yu-Gi-Oh! Collecting is popping off. I think lore binders could be a thing one day, and I'm buying cards like this and other low-end ultis just because I think they have potential to go up. Like, we have Bubble Shuffle here, actually something I think that could go up over time. I tried to go first ed where I could, unless it was already ridiculous, because we've seen Konami actually in the past reprint stuff in unlimited sets, like the Legendary Collections slash, how do I put it? The Legendary Collection that was the original where you have Metal Raiders and LOB packs. So most stuff that I went first ed. Like Dark City was a steal, in my opinion, towards like I want to say the $6 to $8 marks, because these, compared to Skyscraper, who's going up to $50, $60, is still something that people remember. Now, this actually ran me, I think, like, I forget, like, I think towards $10. I was just like, girl, yeah, people will eventually go towards stuff like that. Null and Voids, I really like this card. I believe it has an alternate art when it comes to the OCG, but first ed ultis were pretty easy to get, and there's a ton of them after the listing, and it's my favorite green in the background, so I just went ahead. Oh, these were only like 4 something a piece, and I was shocked that they existed like that, and I looked a couple days after I did buy mine, and there pretty much weren't any other low ones, but I bought these all from one seller, believe it or not, who just happened to have a ton of first eds in great condition. Great, exactly what you're doing right here, Market Man. Yeah, I like having Yu-Gi-Oh cards. These were like $10, but it has a really amazing art with the Graceful Charity Angel, so I just liked having it, and I think it's something that will go up over time towards 20, double the investment. Sasuke Samurai number 4. Let me tell you about this underrated GOAT format card that could go to the moon! Actually, he stops the card from flipping up when you call it right, and he runs over most of what he's attacking that's face down. And on top of that, if something's battling him, he has a chance to destroy it before he would get destroyed, or before like DD Warrior Lady would have a chance to banish. It's actually a good GOAT format meme. And he's one of my favorite cards, so I think he's one of my keeps. I'm an addict to what I'm buying. Chthonians actually used to have a pretty big following that kind of just disappeared, and this guy has a video game version promo, I think, that's ridiculous. Hero cards again, I don't think they're the worst buy ever if it has a hero in the art. It's an ultimate rare, I'm going. Yugioh's cards, and this is the most expensive card I bought at $35, a first edition ultimate rare Queen's Knight, along with Kings and Jacks, and I couldn't really find first editions of the others on market if I recall. We'll have to look through and see if I did. I just think this card looks amazing in Ultimate Rare. Master Dinnerflax here, an old guy from the streams. This card is insane though. I think this card could pop back up into combo Yu-Gi-Oh at some point, and has a lot of really awesome decks you can play him in. There you can see the Ultimate Sheen a lot better. I'll have to angle ultis. Oh, I love how Magical Explosion looks. I bought some Unlims, I bought some First Eds. I think this is a forgotten piece of Yu-Gi-Oh history. Rising Energy, you got the Monk getting ready to fight. And then Spark Blaster. So a lot of you guys may be saying, wow, John, a lot of these don't look that good. Like, they're not the craziest cards, and that's the point. I didn't want to buy out cards on the market. I didn't want to interfere directly with the market. And I wanted to go in on more like penny stonk-like investments where I think bulkish Ultimate Rares will go up over time. I think Ultimate Rare collecting and collections are something that's huge, and there were a lot of overlooked ones on the market, in my opinion. We got Spark Blasters here too. Chivalry First Eds are pretty easy, and Freed's a big part of lore, and the card's not awful. We've got Spell Callings. This card just looks amazing, especially in Ultimate Rare. We've got Supercharged. Now, this card is actually some GX stuff. On top of it, it works with Speedroids, so don't underestimate my mans, and the classic art of this Toonish card. And they were pretty easy to get, and I'm pretty sure still are. Now, I told you guys on Market Watch I would end up paying more on these because of you, and I didn't lie. I ended up, I think, paying like 16 something a piece on first editions when I could have paid 12 to 10s before. But I did get to use my own TCG player, link in the description down below, costing me nothing extra and supporting the channel directly for the cards I'd already be buying. Here's one of Simo's favorite. Not in First Ed, I'm sorry to fail you on the max rarity, but that has one of the coolest Ultimate Rare effects on it. Firewall is a bit of a meme, but I just like the printing of how some of these Ultimate Rares turned out and how they tried things different. And I think that could just be a discussion in and of itself. Triggered Summon. I summon Karen in attack mode. Number collecting's become a lot bigger, so I started targeting a couple of number cards whenever I was buying. They're not my personal favorites, but I think in years to come, people will want full max rarity number collections, like how they do Ghost collections and that kind of stuff. So I don't think it's the worst buy in the world when it comes to things. I'm going to move the camera just a little. Sorry for the vertigo and interruption. I was surprised to find these guys pretty cheap after he's had multiple buyouts. Ultimate Rare Dark Worlds for the modern day. I think this was towards $10 to $12 for first ed banishers. That knocked my socks off. I was like, wow, that's some Yu-Gi-Oh history, and it's still like the same price from when I vended back in the day. That's something that won't stay. I always invest in memes. A meme card that could just take off at one point because somebody says it's time to get the D, or some streamer does something. I think cards like this are excellent, and Destiny heroes are also very famous. This card just wasn't cheap on market, period. As I spill some of my ultimate rares here. Don't worry, they're not hurt. But seriously, this card, it's pretty hard to find. It's just a picture of a dual disc, which is kind of cool to see on a card. We see Super Electromagnetic Voltec Dragon. This guy also wasn't easy to find around near mint. Assault on Goblin HQ. Force Ceasefire. Oh, what I really like about this card, though, is just look at the different paneling on an iconic figure in Yu-Gi-Oh! With the Forceful Century, and look how that actually just looks and pops. Dark Mimic level 3 is one I'm surprised is so easy to still get. Kind of a unique piece of Yu-Gi-Oh! History. And Hammershot First Ed was also pretty easy to find. A little scratch right there. That's not something that I noticed before. But yeah, I got myself a playset of those. We see Psychic Overload. I remember when this used to just be in bulk, on bulk, on bulk, but first editions are really hard to get because of how first edition synchro sets work, and I do think that the ultimate rare foiling on it is pretty cool. We've got Legendary Black Belt, which I noticed was going upwards over time. Mid Shield Gardna, certainly not Big Shield Gardna, but these were freaking cheap, unlimited. So I went in. I think they were like a couple bucks. And we also have the Millennium Scorpion. Again, I try to avoid unlimited where I can and just look for things that have a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! Lore or history. I think lore binders will be a thing. So that is seriously what I've gone after in multiple places, and that could just be crazy talk. Divine Wraths, I think these were like 10s, and I remember this being one of the best looking ultimate rares ever. They were 10s or 15s, and this girl, Pikaru, not only has a good effect, she has a scapegoat on her head. You're sleeping on a card with scapegoat on her head. Rare Metamorph actually has a pretty good effect for back in the day, and first editions weren't too hard to get, neither were Unlims. We've got some Sasuke Samurais, again my favorite card. Unfortunately, some came with a little edge wear when they were near mint, but I'm not going to give up my baby. This is one of my favorite cards of all time. That's going in my personal collection. Hunter Lloyd also collects them if you've kept up with the channel. I think gets YugiTubers to sign them, and for the longest they were actually out on market, and now they were only like $3 and something cents for first editions. I was like, sign me up, I'm going to be taking those. We've got Ultimate Insect. I like the level cards as investments. Charcoal and Pachis, I was surprised to find any on market. This is one that usually gets bought out, one of the older memes. The supercharges, again, were very, very cheap. Number 91 Spark Dragon. I think Silver Sentinel is a bit of cool mechanics. And this is memes, and these were only $5. These were $5. I actually found that out from a Ruxin video that these were $5. So I was just looking through and I was like, yo, yeah, sign me up. I'm going to get a ton. And I got all of these from one singular vendor. Actually, I spent like $1,000 on one vendor. I think it's like Big City Cards. And all of them came in immaculate. They came in insane from him. Blasting the Fuse first editions, I think were like $250. And it's a Cannon Soldier running. And then also kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh! History with zones. Even though that didn't work out. Like, they're still pieces of history that I find really awesome and cool art, if nothing else. So, the risk with what I'm investing in is if things don't budge for years, then I break even, but I also lose on fees and shipping. And on low-end cards, that's not in the place you want to be. Like, on cards like this, I think he looks freaking badass. Look at him next to Karma Cut in a binder, the matching blues, everything going on there, and the relationship between the two cards. But you know, then again, these could just go nowhere when I bought them at $250. They could even go down. First edition, CDIP. I do think CDIP Ultimate Rares and almost any first edition Ultimate Rares have been going up, but like that's one of the last sets where people ignore because CDIP was dirt cheap for so long. So I think that CDIP Ultimate Rare first editions will eventually join other sets and going up in value. I just like this guy. This guy's really, really cool. We got more Blasting the Fuse first eds. Again, I didn't actually buy out a single card. Most of these I only bought from a max of 3 different vendors. I just remember making fun of this for being bad Regeki forever. and she was actually played in plant formats. She was teched. We have Miraculous Rebirth First Edition, just an amazing looking ultimate rare. That was also Dirt, Rampaging Rhino, and I have Doomdozer here at the end. I think I paid around $20 a piece of these. I did get 2 playsets of Doomdozers total. There's another one over there. One's on its way late. I do have the tracking. The seller has it on its way late. I have a playset coming in, but I'm missing a couple of Doomdozers and a couple of XX Saber Dark Souls, because those had fallen back out. I actually covered the buyout a while back. Checked in on them. They were like 12s to 13, and I was like, yo, a lot of people were saying they missed out on those, and I was like, my turn to try to get Billy some, and they haven't come in. First edition Magical Explosion, but you can see it's a little dirty. It's not exactly the best there. It's a little damaged, unfortunately. King's Knight, we got more of the Dark World. A lot of these are repetitive. We've got some Unlimbs here. Definitely, again, lore. Lore does sell depending on the card. So I think eventually that will take off with Ultimate Rares in general. And I think most first edition ultis will almost all be above $10 one day. And I think Unlimiteds, that's the question. Where do they end up? Oh, these look nice. I got this from another Texas vendor that I saw. I was like, yo, I ended up buying from a lot of people I didn't expect. Like, Blazing Cards is Austin Coleman. I bought from Brennan Green. He's an amazing North Texas vendor. One Up TCG. Jonathan Fry, Class Act. Like, I bought from a lot of people I didn't expect, like a Kenny So, Core TCG. So it just means they're on their grind. Like, I think I paid $22 for this Near Mint First Dekoichi. So you see some gems in here. You're like, it's not all ridiculous. He's not lost it. But then you see a bunch of more supercharges. This has always been a funny card to me. This has always been a cool one that I feel like is underestimated. Tragedy's getting its Lost Art soon. More Null and Void, Hammershot Unlimbs. So I just picked up, like, the worst versions if they were infinitely more cheap than the first editions. Oh, Ancient Rules. That's a Billy Break card if I ever saw one. And I just went for quantities that I thought I'd enjoy without doing the buyouts. Drastic Drop-Off. That's a classic. Definitely a piece of Yu-Gi-Oh! History there. We see Go-Go the Gallant Ninja. I remember when these were just trash. People didn't care about them, and now people just love to have stuff like this. Majestic Mech Oka. We've got Gold Woo Lord of Dark World Ultimates that are pretty nice. And I remember this getting bought out a while ago. Now it's just dirt as well. Utopia stuff. Again, the Number Hunters, the Zexel kids coming in. Black Horn of Heaven first. Most you can see of what I'm going through here are just Ultimate Rares. And this was actually to keep a card safe. Somebody, like, kind of didn't have a top loader and put it against a cardboard and then that. So that was kind of interesting to receive it in the mail. And then pulling the rugs, one of my packages not yet in is like 3 more of those for Monarch format. They were like $4 a piece or less. So I'm going after cards, as you see, that are all in the Ultimate Rare camp. I went through TCG Player. I went to the very lowest Ultimate Rares because you can go price low. And then went through every single Ultimate Rare to see what I felt like was either undervalued or what I felt like would be good for the future. And this is kind of what came out of it. And I did use money from sponsors, the TCG Player link, and then I used my own TCG Player link, a little double dipping there, but I get, like, if I'm honest with you guys, a small percent whenever I use it, so it's not the biggest savings or anything crazy. Like, it's not sales tax back or anything like that. And there's a Dark Soul. Waiting on 2 more for Billy. Brennan Green sent in this Mystic Swordsman level 2. It did get a little bit of a bump, but that's not his fault. It was the mail's fault. Neospatian Grand Mole, number 25. Force Focus. We've got a bunch more stuff that, first edition. Lightsworn format, anybody? I feel like past formats are also highly undervalued. I feel like people are not looking at those things. I'm not talking vintage values to the moon on stuff like this. Like, I'm not telling you this is going to be 10x, 20x, but I do think that stuff like this, that is very iconic for past Yu-Gi-Oh! And certain formats. I bought from Zangoose Cards. I give him a hard enough time on Market Watch. I wanted to see what came in, and these came in pretty darn decent condition, so I gotta give it to him. I had to test him out, and it turned out pretty nice. But I still don't agree with the practice of naming 5 different cards on eBay and being the lowest listing on something that's not even the same listing. Anyways, I diverged. I think that when it comes to past formats, they're highly underexplored, and GOAT format got a huge push from ARG, And then it got a huge push from Chris Borovic together, so some pros and a big company, and I think other pass formats could pop up eventually if their gameplay is good enough and you see people going in. This was like $5 just because she's a mommy. So Damage Condenser actually got bought out after I bought a couple. I did not buy many, and I think it's funny that cards like this get targeted too. Like, people really do go after any and everything right now, but when it comes to the cards that I've been after, I think that it just shows it's nothing too great, too showy. It's not like I'm buying out Ultimate Pot of Desires. I've gone around with my own penny stock investments. I've gone with some mid-memorable things, and I've gone both the Unlimited and First Ed to play the field at a decent budget. But this is just how I approached it. What would you guys go after with $2,500 right now if you had to spend it on Yu-Gi-Oh cards? I chose Ultimate Rares, both penny stocks, big boy stuff. I went around, but I stuck under $35 and got myself a couple nice collectibles. How would you have approached it? And do you think I did it right? Do you think that in 5 years, I will 3x my value as I predict, or greater? Or do you think that I bought a bunch of bum stuff that probably will just stick around for a while? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the conversation. I'm going to go sleeve all of these cards and stick them somewhere for 5 years.